In this part we are gonna create these damaged edges that you can see here in this reference. These are not too prominent in our image, but you can see them in some areas like here and here. And this creates the illusion that in these areas the mortar has broken and detached from the ground. First I will create a pattern that looks like this. So let's go ahead and do that. I will start by dragging a connection from this purling noise. And I need a bigger scale, so I'm gonna bring in a safe transform here. I'm gonna tile this. For this purling noise, I want some more darker areas, and I also want to create some variation for it. So I will bring in a transform 2D. And I will move this transform so I get another seed. And then I can blend this back. For the blending mode, I'm going to choose multiply. As I said, I want to create some variations, so I will create a mask here for the opacity. I'm going to have 2 histogram ranges from this safe transform. So I will duplicate this. At the first one, I'm gonna have a range of 0.75 and a position of 0.45. At the second one, I will have a range of 7.5 also, and a position of 0.2. Let's blend these two together. And here at the opacity mask, I'm gonna have another purling noise. And with a scale of 6. Now I'm gonna connect all these here to the opacity. And what we get is a slight variation in height and also a bit of variation in shape. Next I will have a levels to bring in some contrast. Here at the values I'm gonna have 0.32 at the level in low and 0.42 here. Now I want to introduce even more variation, and I also want to have these patterns only where we don't have any tiles. For that I will take the mask of all tiles, which we have somewhere around here. I could add a dot here. And I will blend this with the levels. Let's set the blending mode to multiply. And I want to arrange these lines. Now I want to invert this mask of all tiles, because the way we have it now, it will create these patterns only where we have tiles, and I want exactly the opposite. So I will bring in an invert grayscale. Now let's go forward and shape these patterns. I will bring in a slope blur. This needs a clouds too as an input. Samples all the way up. I will choose max and an intensity of 0.2. This will break up these patterns and make them look more organic. Next, I want to warp these using a non-uniform directional warp. I will have these clouds too at both of these inputs. Let's change the intensity to 5 and I'm gonna reduce the warp angle multiplier. Then I can increase this trail length and this will give me a smoother transition to the patterns. Next I will warp these patterns once more, so Ctrl D. Let's connect this here and I'm gonna increase the intensity and change the warp angle. This is what we have so far. Now let's bring in another slope blur. I'm gonna connect this here. Samples all the way up. Intensity to 0.1 and I'm gonna leave it on blur. As you can see, this will kind of blur and expand my shapes and give me similar results with what we had in the reference. Let me bring up the reference. Now I will use this pattern as a mask to blend the mortar texture with the patterns once again. So I need a blend node here. I will have the mortar to the background and the patterns to the foreground. And this will go to the opacity. I'm gonna create some space and reroute this to the output. And this is how it looks. Now let's frame all this and call it edge damage. Next I want to add one more layer of damage to make everything look even more organic. So I will bring in a few noises. The first one is black and white spots 2. So BNV spots 2. And then a dirt 3. And using these two noises I will create a pattern which has some more variation. For that I need a selective dirt. I'm gonna have the black and white spots go to the curvature and the dirt 3 to the mask. Here at the level I will have 0.98. Next I will have a dirt one and I'm gonna blend that on top of the selective dirt. And I will have add sub at an opacity of 0.3. At this stage you could try and play with other noises and other blending modes, and maybe you can find a pattern which you like and you can use that to subtract from the mortar. Now let's go ahead and subtract this from the mortar. I will have a blend node. Let's change this to subtract and set the opacity to 0.03. And this is what we get. And this creates the illusion of some additional damage. There is one last thing I want to do at the mortar, and that is to add some more height variation. So I will bring in a blend node. And drag a connection from this Perlin noise. I will connect this here. And I will have the blending mode to multiply and the opacity to 0.04. And this will get me some slight variation in height. That's it for the mortar. Now I have to blend it with the tiles. And because their value range is so narrow, I had to play a lot with their values in order to blend them properly. So you can try and blend them on your own, but it is easier that we enter the exact values that I found to work when I created the material. First I want to readjust the whole height range of the tiles, so I will use an auto levels to restore the full height range. So let's drag a connection from here and bring in an auto levels. And now I need the levels. With this I will have 0.38 at the level in mid and 0.51 at the level out high. Now I need a histogram range. And at the range I'm gonna have 0.21 and 0.24 at the position. I could have probably get away with just a levels node or a histogram range. I don't remember why I used two nodes here. Anyway, I wanna have the same exact value, so I'm gonna leave it as it is. Now let's blend the tiles with the mortar. I will bring in a height blend. And have the tiles at the height top. And the mortar to the bottom. We can also reroute the output here. Here at the mode I'm gonna have bottom height priority. We'll have 0.69 for the offset and 0.88 for the contrast. You can try and choose different values here as well as for the height adjustments that we made earlier. The last thing I'm gonna do here is to frame everything and call it Mortar.